Hello, everyone. You know, it is Friday, so we are going to wine it right on down. On the wind down.
Yep.
This is how we start our week.
Or end it. Start our weekend, end our week.
Yeah, I mean, we start our weekend.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The most important days of the week. Of course. Hillary, what are you having?
I am having some Apothic Red. This is a red blend, and it is quite delicious. It's a little fruity, has a little bit of like mocha and vanilla flavors.
You're familiar with this.
I am.
You know what you're getting yourself into.
Very good, drinkable Friday night wine.
Perfect.
In my opinion.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Specifically Friday night.
Yes, Friday night. No other night of the week.
No other night of the week.
And are you having wine today?
Well, I have something that looks a little bit like a rosé, doesn't it?
It does.
Well, I have a bit of an announcement to make. It's actually kind of weird because I haven't really announced it like this.
No.
So I'm kind of nervous. Okay, so I'm pregnant.
Woo!
And yeah, I only just started announcing it because I'm 13 weeks now. So, you know, I'm not going to be partaking in the red wine for quite some time.
And hint, hint, she hasn't for quite some time.
And I haven't for quite some time.
It's just
I was
been smoke and mirrors.
smoke and mirrors over here at ROI TV. We've been very, very sneaky. Very sneaky.
Very sneaky.
Now you're going to go back to all the episodes and be like, did she swallow? Was she swallowing that wine? Yeah, well, it's true. I'm pregnant. I'm going to have 2 under 2. Can you believe it?
Woo, good for you.
Yeah, I don't know.
So cheers to that. Congratulations.
Cheers to when you need a glass of wine, you're not allowed to have it. Cheers to that. But I am drinking a delicious powder supplement, healthy for baby and mommy, that I've been enjoying thoroughly. And so that's what I'll be enjoying for the next, 9 months.
Yeah.
But this is actually kind of on topic with what we're going to be talking about, because we're going to be talking about, oh my gosh, all of it. Getting pregnant as a woman. Well, we're the only ones getting pregnant. Working and the anxieties that come up, surrounding that. How is that going to affect the work environment, your position in the workforce? And just the stress that still comes along with that we all still feel.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many different things to touch. I mean, lack of paid maternity leave in this country.
There's so many things to talk about. I think, we're going to start with kind of how and everybody's experience is different. Yeah. Some companies, some places of work have a much more supportive culture towards women becoming pregnant and becoming mothers. Right. Some have a harder, maybe aren't as receptive. Right. Depends on kind of what industry you're in. And also even what team you're on, even when a larger company seems like it has a good policy and a very supportive culture, it might just be that you don't have the right team around you. Your boss perhaps isn't supportive or doesn't understand.
It's kind of a gamble of who you're working for as to if you're going to get the support financially that you really need, because we don't get the federal support in this country.
Right.
Which we are actually the only wealthy country in the world that does not offer any federal support when it comes to
It's so fun. It's so fun.
Giving birth. It's no big deal. You're
Right.
just like, just 9 months of pregnancy and then pushing a human out of your body and, having to recover, take care of that human.
Right.
Keep it alive. No big deal.
And maternity leave is vacation.
Vacation, yeah. Oh my gosh. It is
not.
It is like overtime times, right?
Yeah. Times infinity.
Times infinity.
But yeah, so I mean, let's talk about a little bit about your experience with being a working actor.
Yeah.
With your first child, and how is that? And even with this one, kind of announcing your pregnancy, how does it affect? How do you feel like it affects your career? Does it? Does it change things for you?
you know what my initial reaction was, and fear has been, is my agents are going to drop me. They're going to drop me. And that's sad. It's sad that that's what I revert to, that sort of like I'm less worthy in the work that I do because I need to take a moment to have a baby. But I think it's a fear that like everyone has to a certain degree. Even if the support is there, we still feel this need to prove ourselves, that we are equal and worthy and capable, ultra capable, even though like you would think that we prove how capable we are because we are bearing children.
Right.
Like that should make us the most capable. But there's so much stigma around it. And it's not really respected the way it should be. But yeah, I felt very anxious about telling my agents, and you know, what ended up happening, and it wasn't just me, I think it was actually a lot of people, a lot of my peers, like the joke is that all actresses in their 30s over the pandemic had a baby. Because we thought this is a window where we can do it. No one has to know, and we'll be back and ready to show up at auditions once auditions are up and running again. And so truly, like me, a bunch of my friends, like we got pregnant over the pandemic. I mean, I had a baby over the pandemic before, you know, Broadway opened back up again, like everything. And yeah, I felt like my, you know, supported, but things do change. I can't just go anywhere and do anything. I have to be a little bit more picky with what I'm choosing at this point.
Yeah.
And that might not be as favorable to my agents. You know, that's, you know, they just want me to keep working because that benefits them, of course, no matter what it is.
Right.
But yeah, the second one, that one was really hard because things have opened up and auditions were starting to roll in. And then I was like, hi, I'm pregnant again. So yeah, I still feel like, you know, they're going to just be like, okay, well, she's not involved anymore. And I'll just sort of like disappear and I won't be relevant. And it's a huge, huge fear, even though I've been working consistently in the industry since I was 18. So it's just like, what about all of that? And so, yeah, it's an unfortunate anxiety that I think a lot of women bear, truly.
Yeah.
How did you feel in your,
I think, so I was working a corporate job, and I think it, even though our company was mostly female, it was still tough in the position that I was in.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't in a senior position, to have a lot of support behind me.
You were still working your way.
I was still working my way up. I was still really proving, you know, my worth and my, you know, how much I was worth to the company, how much I was worth to my team. And also I had terrible morning sickness. And
I'm right there with you, sister.
Yeah. And so, you know, those first 12 weeks where you aren't telling anybody.
Yeah.
And
you're feeling your worst.
Couldn't think very well.
Yeah. It's like when you need the most support.
When you need the most support. Yeah, exactly. And that was probably the hardest time for me.
Yeah.
Because truly I was really worried. I wasn't worried about going out on maternity leave, and I wasn't worried about, you know, there were other worries in terms of monetary and, you know, taking so much time. But luckily I was also giving birth in California, and I worked in San Francisco. And so there were some really beneficial laws that I was able to take advantage of for my maternity leave, which it is amazing to me that we don't, well, we're going to get into leave in just a little bit. But yeah, I think there's always this fear that you aren't able to, you know, I wanted to leave by 5 p.m. once I became a mom, and that wasn't the culture.
Right.
And I used to work until 7 or 8 p.m. There isn't
a lot of grace when it comes to that either.
Yes.
It's kind of like, prove to us that you can continue doing what you were doing, you know? And we sort of abide by that and feel that pressure to abide by that, because I think women are constantly trying to prove themselves, you know? We're constantly trying to prove that like we can do what the men have had the opportunity to do all of these years, which we can, but there has to be some grace and understanding in what it takes to have a child.
Yes.
And like one of the things that bothers me more than anything is a comment that has been made to me a lot since falling pregnant is, I mean, women have been doing it for centuries. And it's sort of like, women have been doing it for centuries without support and respect for what they're doing. Which is the most incredible thing. That they're doing something that is so hard without anybody understanding how hard it is. And just because we all are capable of it and it's been happening for all of time, it doesn't make it easier.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean the support shouldn't be there. And I just, yeah, it's still a fight. It's still a fight. And I was reading an article, I was like just reading some stuff on this, and I was reading an article from Forbes, and it was talking about how today women are working further into their pregnancy and coming back sooner from maternity leave than ever before. And it's just this go, like we can do it mentality, which I love that. I love that about women. I love that we are strong and we're trying to show that we can do everything. But I also wish that, yes, there was a little bit of people were stepping up and advocating for us to take the time to take care of ourselves, you know?
Yeah, and I think we're going to take a quick commercial break and we're going to talk about maternity leave policies.
Yikes.
And just after this.
All right, we're back. We're going to talk about paid maternity leave or lack thereof. In our case.
Right.
In the very wealthy and fruitful country of the United States of America.
At least federally subsidized.
Yes.
Not.
It is not available to us. No. And they did try to recently pass a bill that would offer 12 weeks, which is not much.
Guys, your
12
vagina's
weeks.
not ready by that time.
No. Let's be real. We're going to be real with you.
In case you haven't had a child.
You know, you think there's like enough people that have had children that this would have changed, but the issue is that women are the ones having the children and we need the men to for it to change. It's not easy. My husband's best friend is Swedish.
Okay.
And his wife is British, but they have a place in Sweden. And it's funny, the timeline of her getting pregnant and me getting pregnant with our first, very similar. She was like about 5 months ahead of me. And then again, she got pregnant straight after, and she's about 5 months ahead of me again. It's crazy. But it's been very hard hearing their experience.
Yes.
Not just the financial support that they're getting in their country, but it really is emotional support and the benefits behind why they provide paid maternity, paternity leave is what I think is really beautiful, because ensuring that both partners are given leave, so that both partners take on the responsibility of caring for that child. They're hoping to close the gap in for gender equality. They want to promote gender equality for doing that, and they've really seen benefits with that. And it's just what you do. And like talking his friends Anton and Harriet, they're so lovely, and they just both take on that responsibility with open arms. And oh my gosh, how many weeks they have? I think it's 280. I hope I don't get that wrong. I think it's 280 that they each get.
Days.
Yes.
So like three-fourths of them a year.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's amazing that they both get the equal amount of time, so that it is splitting parent responsibilities and gives both parents the opportunity to bond with the child and take care of the child. I think it is interesting that there have been studies that a lot of men who have paternity leave don't even take it because of the societal norm that they shouldn't.
Right.
Yet it is, in study after study, that when men become parents, they actually earn more money. Whereas when women become parents, they typically don't, because they are taking time away from their careers. They might not advance them as quickly during that time frame where people are, some of your most productive years, or possibly also the years where you're giving birth.
Right.
So you are taking that time away, and as you should. And it's not always supported by the company.
Yeah.
Or, here in America, it's by the company. It's not so much, it's obviously not by the government.
Yeah.
When I was pregnant, I had a counterpart who lived in Canada, and we were like 2 weeks apart in our due dates.
Right.
And I had a pretty robust maternity leave. It was a pretty, again, I gave birth in California, and I was working for a company in San Francisco. So San Francisco had just passed a law where if you worked in the city of San Francisco, your company, and you had worked for X amount of time and had this many employees, the company had to, and California paid 60% of your,
Unfreeze.
Oh my God. Can you imagine if I was just like...
All right, 1, 2, 3, and...
And in California, the state disability paid about 60% of your salary.
Right.
This San Francisco law was that your company had to pay the remainder of that. So I actually got paid for a period of my maternity leave 100% of my pay.
That's amazing.
Which was amazing.
So you really want to be in a state that has established some of its own.
And a city, because even if I had been, and I lived in Oakland at the time, but worked in San Francisco, if it had been the opposite, where I lived in San Francisco and my company was in Oakland, I wouldn't have gotten that. I wouldn't have gotten that benefit.
Right.
But this is to say that my counterpart, where I had robust maternity leave, and I can't believe that here on the East Coast, and specifically in Pennsylvania, I've done the research, and it's 12 weeks, and you just don't get anything more than that. And it's like crazy pants, in my opinion, but we'll get to that next. My counterpart in Canada, same company, had an entire year off. She was like, I'll see you next February. And I was like,
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine not feeling the anxiety and like feeling like this is a huge burden and struggle to do this, but it's worth it.
Right.
It's like it's a major burden on your life financially and your time and your energy, but it's worth it in the end, right? Whereas there are places that just simply support you and lift you up and make it so that you can care for your child, properly.
and yourself.
Yourself.
Because it is, giving birth is a huge ordeal. Whether it is vaginally or you have a C-section, there's could be lots of complications. And we do live in a time and an age where childbirth mortality is lower than it historically has been, but in terms of...
it's still a major event no matter how you go about it.
Yeah.
Because that baby has to come out.
Right. Yes.
And there's no easy access point for that baby to come out. So I remember thinking that when I went into labor, I was like, wait, so they're like, yeah, the baby's going, it has to come out. I was like, are you sure? Like it's going to come out, like this has to happen. And it was like, there's no option. It's going to be an event.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
And, I think it's also, I don't know if your hospital or your doctor made you do this, but our hospital made me figure out what my, I had to fill out a DNR and figure out what my plan was in case something did go wrong.
Yep.
And that is something that you just don't think about these days, because it's not like we're having 12 children, like on Bridgerton, and one of them, you know, like
In a field. or
Yeah, in a
something.
field.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, women have been doing it for centuries, millennia, but it is very
Modern
different
medicine, it is
these
very
days.
different, right? There's a lot of interventions that can take place now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank goodness for modern medicine. But I do think that in order for us to catch up, we need to have a modern maternity leave program, especially here in the US. So we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to come back and continue talking about maternity leave policies.
That's right. Welcome back, everyone. All right, I have some notes because I have pregnancy brain, okay?
It's a real thing. It's true.
It's a real thing, but I'm still fully capable, all right?
Yeah, it's true. While she's growing a human inside her,
Yes.
nourishing it with her own body,
Yes. I can
creating
feel,
eyeballs.
I can feel that I am as well. All right, so let's talk about what some other countries that should be somewhat comparable to us, right? US, 0 weeks
0 weeks of federally.
of federal support. Britain, 39 weeks.
Oh.
Which is pretty good because I feel like Britain can be as savage as we can be. So I was like, my husband's British, so I can say that. But I went to him and I was like, look what I read. I was like, maybe we're in the wrong country.
Maybe.
Also with healthcare, I'm like, you've got some things going for you over there.
I see a move in the future.
I know, the wind down's gonna have to go British.
Right? We'll do it in a pub.
Yeah, we'll do it in a pub. We'll start doing beers instead. It'll be great. Sweden is 68 weeks. Oh, and it was 240 days.
Okay.
Each per person, but if you're a single parent, you get 480 days. So it is 480 total. They just split that for each parent. So, and that's mandatory.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. Estonia, it's like population 1 million. So it's like, it's a different situation for sure, but it's 82 weeks. So basically no one's working in Estonia.
At least not while they have small children.
Oh my gosh, Estonia is so good. I went to Tallinn once with my sister, and it was just the coolest place ever. It's like something out of a snow globe. I don't know. Japan is 52 weeks. Yep. Ouch.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing that the US doesn't even have something on there. And then you have to think of the women who aren't necessarily in corporate jobs or have companies that have policy.
Yep.
And so you might have to make that decision. Yes, you might be able to take 6 to 12 weeks on FMLA, but it's going to be unpaid.
Right.
And if you can't financially afford to do that, and you've just given birth, which is you have to pay for.
Yes, you do.
And depending on what kind of birth you have and what kind of health insurance you have, can be quite expensive.
It's not cheap to give birth.
But as we learned a couple of weeks ago, invest in your HSA
Yes.
so that you can use that towards your birthing costs.
See, this is why I was very curious, because I was sitting there pregnant listening to this, and I was like, noting it all down.
You know, there's women who do have to go back to their jobs 2
Right.
weeks after giving birth,
Yep.
6 weeks after giving birth.
Yeah.
And your body isn't ready.
No.
Your brain, because
You're on
just,
another planet.
You're on another planet.
You're
You're
up
not
all night.
sleeping.
You're often breastfeeding all night. And you're healing. You're physically healing and sleep deprived. It's a very wild combination of
And
You're just-
hormones
you're
are all over the place.
yeah, you're just deprived. The Wall Street Journal said that some studies have shown that paid parental leave increases women's participation in the workforce and reduces gender pay gaps. So,
And it also helps with employee retention when there are robust maternity and paternity leaves available, and where the culture of the corporation is to take those and take those in full. And look, I've had coworkers who, and trust me, I did not understand this. I was like, no, that is not my mentality. Especially after I'd had a maternity leave. I had one older coworker who was like, oh yeah, I could have taken up to 6 months, but I came back after 2 because I just couldn't handle being around my kid for that long. And I was just like, and she had parents who lived basically
see, that helps.
2 doors down who were there and just like very hands-on.
Yeah.
And that was great. And I was like, Good for you. Yeah. I mean, and that's the other thing.
I think if you have a support system, it
you have
makes it a lot easier.
Exactly. I mean, there is that, I think it's Hillary Clinton, it takes a village to raise a child, and that's what it used to be.
It used to be that,
And we don't have those villages anymore.
Yep.
You have to pay for or create those villages, and it takes time and effort. And when you don't have those, you need a maternity policy so you can spend your maternity leave figuring out how to create that village for you to be a working parent.
That's funny. My mom gave me the book, The Red Tent. And I was reading it as, I didn't even finish it actually because I went into labor the last chapter I read, but the whole book is about, a village and women giving birth in this village and how the village comes together for the labor and all of the women, all of the women come together and they help labor this child together, and then they all band together to take care of the child so that the mother can recover and rest and survive the process. And I think nowadays it's very different because people are moving away from home. People aren't staying all in the same city, town that their parents are in. My husband and I live nowhere near our parents.
Right.
His family is in England. He wasn't even able to see them when our daughter was born. His mom only just came over Christmas, and that she's the only one. So none of his friends or family have actually met our child. And then my family is spread out and no one's nearby. So we realized very early on why people so often will move home.
Yeah.
But if you can't do that, it is because then we're looking at childcare, and that is so expensive.
Right. Super expensive.
Even babysitters are expensive. It's very expensive.
Yes.
Yes, it is. It's costly to have babies.
And it's totally worth it. It just feels like, and I think the other thing is that more women are in the workplace than ever before. It is time for the leave policy of our nation and of our corporations and of our states, whoever needs to make that happen needs to reflect it, because otherwise we will start seeing more and more people pull out. And I think we saw that during the pandemic when it was so many mothers who came out of the workforce because they were the primary child givers or caregivers to children and they couldn't do both.
Right.
And we have this expectation of mothers, whether you're pregnant, whether you're coming back from maternity leave, whether you have kids that are grown, to perform at this super high caliber. And I think partially, a lot of the time, it's self-inflicted, but it is also inflicted in the culture of the U.S. And I think
the pressures in the
there's
culture,
a lot of
for
pressure.
sure. Yeah.
And so I think being able to have a robust maternity leave that is universal and really helps out everybody at every level.
Yeah. You can't performatively say, no, we want women to participate in the workforce the same way we do men. It's performative if you're not supporting childbirth.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel like this is a topic we could talk about.
We're not passionate about it at all.
No.
And it doesn't affect your finances at all. It's not a wind down topic that we like at all.
Yeah, no. I mean, actually, this is a really good Healthy Wealthy Wednesday. How to give birth and not without anxiety. Just it's tricky. So hopefully things will change, and we have to keep these conversations going. But we would love to hear feedback from people who have experienced this, which is a lot of people. But thank you for joining us on another episode of The Wind Down. We will see you next week. I'll see you next week with my my faux glass of wine, and Hillary will be drinking the bottle.
You know it. Cheers.
Cheers.